This episode is brought to you by Battlefield 6. Battlefield 6 is the ultimate all-out warfare experience. Rip through the skies in aerial dogfights. Demolish your surroundings for a strategic advantage. Harness complete control over every action and movement using the kinesthetic combat system. Drop into multiplayer with your squad, or fight furiously as a member of the Dagger 1-3 squad in a gritty, adrenaline-fueled single-player campaign where you'll defend a world on the edge of collapse.
This episode is brought to you by CBS. DMV is a brand new workplace comedy turning misery into magic and chaos into comedy. Starring Harriet Dyer and Tim Meadows, DMV is here to serve you laughs. Watch Mondays at 8:30, 7:30 Central on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Well, welcome to another edition of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. I am Stephen Rothberg of College Recruiter. I'm the founder and chief visionary officer and the co-host. Before I turn the stage over to my other co-host, Peter Zollman of the AIM Group, just wanted to introduce today's awesome guest. We're going to learn even more about Google for Jobs. We had a session yesterday with his business partner, and we kind of dove in deep to sort of what some of the changes that are rolling out right now are going to be. And today we're going to take a little bit of a step back, a little bit more of a broader, higher level view, but definitely also talk about not just where things are at, where they've been, but where they are going. So Mark is the chief executive officer and co-founder of Job Hub Central. It's an organization that helps job boards, recruitment marketplaces, et cetera, with their search engine marketing, acquiring traffic, Google for Jobs strategies, et cetera. So I can't think of anybody better to have this conversation with. Peter, you want to introduce yourself, tell people who the heck you are?
Me. Let's not waste more time on me.
Alrighty.
Let's ask Mark. Google for Jobs. A factor now? Going to be a factor? Where's it going? How is it? And does it make job boards nervous, or is it a good thing?
Great question. I'll kind of break that down in a couple parts. Does it matter? Yes. The answer is yes. And I'll tell you for two reasons. One, because if you are a job seeker and you're going on to the internet and you're saying, I'm looking for a job, most of us start our searches on Google. Right. Mm-hmm. And so obviously that's a natural place to start even the job search experience. The second reason is, from my experience, it is some of the highest converting traffic that we see across all sorts of channels. A good conversion rate you might see from another job board or another player might be 20%. We see a lot of sites getting upwards of 60% in terms of click to apply rates. Again, because the user's already sort of read that job description on Google, understands what they're getting to when they get to the site, and so they're already sort of ready to buy, if you will, or in this case, apply.
Wow, so I can tell you from college recruiters' numbers, we're not getting 60%. We're definitely south of that. I think we're going to have to talk after. So for the listeners who don't really understand what Google for Jobs is, where it came from, maybe like in a minute or two, you can give us like kind of a brief history and what Google's trying to do with it.
Yeah, so I'll speculate on what I think Google's trying to do with it. But okay. So if you've ever used, the most common sort of widget that people will use is often for flights. So if you go onto Google and you're trying to fly from one place to another, Google will sort of aggregate all those flights and make it a little bit easier for you to sort of figure out where you're going. Google for Jobs is sort of their same strategy, but obviously in the job space. And so they implemented this 6-7 years ago. Up until now, they haven't really been looking to monetize it. It's all been sort of organic traffic. And so everybody sort of is getting free traffic. Everybody loves that. But they're starting to monetize it. And so I think Google is now starting to put more emphasis on this space. Again, as they start to monetize it, I think there's going to be more attention given to it. And I think that's why you saw some of the stuff that Ken talked about yesterday around some of the algorithm updates and some of those things that we're seeing now.
They've been tinkering with it, as you said, for 6 years or so, 6-7 years ago. I remember sitting down with somebody in San Francisco who was running the product, and he said, "We're still trying to figure this out." Are they serious about it? And when will they get serious about it if they're not serious about it now?
I think they're starting to become serious about it, and I think for a couple of reasons. I think one is Google doesn't want to give up this space in the same way they sort of gave up shopping to Amazon, right? I think Ken talked about this a little bit yesterday, but our belief is that, if you're looking for a cell phone case, you probably don't go to Google. You probably just go onto Amazon, type in iPhone 14, whatever, boom, you sort of found your product. For Google to ensure that Indeed or others don't sort of just become the default, it needs to start to invest in this space. And I think that's why you're starting to see sponsored job postings show up in sort of, in the wild, if you will. There's still a long ways away from fully monetizing that. I think you're going to see that roll out the rest of this year. But when Google starts to monetize, that's when Google starts to pay more attention. And so given, to me, those are like positive signals that Google's going to really start to spend more time thinking about this spot.
That's really interesting. So something that I just picked up on, my words, not yours. It sounds to me that what Google is doing here is a word that was taught to me years ago by Steve Kraut, who at the time was with Next, one of the bigger job board platforms. He liked to use the word coopetition, that organizations could both cooperate and compete. Is that what Google for Jobs is doing here?
Yeah, I don't know that Google is ever going to get to a place where it believes that it can be the termination point for everyone, right? They're not going to, sort of house all of that back-end information on that. Google wants to be a place that gets you to your destination as quickly and as simply as possible. It's the same reason that, they don't sell Dell computers. They just drive you to Dell to build the computer, or they help you understand what your computer choices are, ultimately leading you to Dell. I think you're going to see the same thing in this space, where Google's going to say, how can I get this user who's looking for a barista job? How do I help them aggregate all that information that exists in the simplest way possible and get them to the right spot? That may be a job board. It may be an employer site. It could be, an ATS. Any of those things could work. But Google's trying to do it in a way where it has all the data and then is able to sort of, shovel you to the right spot. There's a lot of money to be made from job boards by Google, so I don't think that they're going to necessarily just come in and try to cut all the job boards out. There's too many smaller employers that may never build a Google account, and they would benefit from just being able to be a part of an ecosystem on one of the major job boards.
Hey, wait a minute! Isn't that what Indeed said too?
It's true. In some ways, actually Google's following the Indeed playbook, right? Which is like, hey, what if I had all the jobs and then I give everyone sort of free traffic to begin with, and then over time start to try to monetize that.
But one of the questions about Google is, let's assume they could capture.
The Use Case podcast is where technology vendors get to talk about themselves. And it's a wonderful place for vendors, investors, and practitioners to listen to the story of the solution, the features, the benefits, the attributes, etc. And we get to know the CEO or founder during the call, and we also get to know the tech. So subscribe to the Use Case podcast.
$300 million worth of revenue in the job space. That's a flea on an elephant.
Oh, you so stole my question, Peter.
Are they going to care? They've been poking around at it for 6 years. It's a flea on an elephant. Do they care?
Yeah.
I think in some ways it may not even necessarily be about the revenue as much as it is that they need to ensure that they protect the idea that Google is the place to do all your searching, right? And so the job, while the sort of, the job recruitment advertising space may not be the biggest, the idea that Google is the place where you go when you have career questions, when you're looking for career advice, that's what's really critical to Google, right? It doesn't want to miss out on all of that search and all that value and see somebody else sort of come in and become you don't have to go to Google, you just go to wherever that is. And so I think Google sort of retaining that, that go-to spot is almost in some ways maybe even more important than the revenue itself.
So speaking of revenue, what we're hearing at College Recruiter is that Google is in the final stages of, call it a pilot, call it a beta, where they are selling sponsored listings, like basically like little product ads, almost like little mini display ads, adjacent to the Google for Jobs search results. And that in Q3, so a month from now, or as early as a month from now, they're going to start rolling that out, not just to a few partners, but basically to the world, so that any job board, any recruitment marketplace, anywhere can buy sponsored ads adjacent to the Google search results. Is that what you're hearing, and what are you telling your clients about that?
Yeah, I'm hearing maybe a little bit longer timeline than necessarily that in 30 days we're all going to be able to flip this on our accounts. That's it, but obviously all that's sort of like rumor and speculation at this point. What we're thinking about is where are the pockets where this is going to make the most sense. So if Google were to roll it out as it exists today, there's a lot of searches for things like part-time jobs, and there's not a lot of known intent there, right? Like, what is that user actually looking for? So it's tough to sort of win in that space. Where I think there's going to be a ton of value early on is if you are working, say, with a nursing client, and so someone searches for RN jobs in San Diego. That has a lot of intent. You sort of know what jobs they're looking for. I think that's where there's going to be a ton of value created in the early days, more so than sort of the broader generic searches. And so that's I think who can jump on this early and can really kind of grab a lot of value out of it.
We're just about out of time, and we promised absolutely no gotcha questions, but here comes a gotcha question.
Sounds great.
I heard yesterday there's a fire sale going on over at Apollo Global. Job Hub Central Buy-in Career Builder?
I like that we're spreading that rumor.
Couldn't resist.
No, not unless Ken's got a deeper pocketbook than I realized.
Sorry, couldn't resist. Any last words, Stephen, or should we just thank Mark and wrap it up here?
Yeah, no, this was great. It really helped for me to put some of the pieces together, and thank you very much. So for Mark, people that want to reach you, LinkedIn the best way? Any other way you prefer?
LinkedIn's my go-to. I'm not a social media savant, so one channel is more than enough for me to manage.
Okay, so Peter, I think what he's saying is that he does not consider LinkedIn to be social media. That's another topic for another day.
We call it professional networking. Anyway, on that note, Mark, thank you. Stephen, thank you. And we will see you soon. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.